Welcome to the Recovery Roundtable Podcast, where the journey to sobriety opens up through powerful discussions and shared experiences. Join your host, Mark, who will bring you stories of triumph and resilience from the heart of Pacific Shores recovery. Every episode offers insights and support, guiding you through the challenges of addiction recovery. Thank you for joining our community. If you're ready to start or continue your recovery journey, we're here to inspire and support you. Let's explore recovery together.
Welcome to another edition. Today, this actually gets asked a lot, so I want to break it down into a two-part series. The first part, well, both are a foundation, because one of the things that we've learned is you gotta have a powerfully strong foundation in order to build everything on. So it reminds me of hearing the stories of how people grow bamboo, that they have to water them every day. I think it's every day for something like 5 years. And the farmer never sees anything sprout for 5 years. But because they know the powerful impact that the foundation has, they will continue to water. Even though they don't see even the tiniest little seedlings, they continue to water their bamboo. And what happens is after about 5 years, within 3 weeks, it goes from nothing to over 100 feet tall. Now, the only way things are able to go tall and what appears to be fast is because over those years, all this whole little root system is just building down and going very, very deep and very, very wide to grab. So when it's ready, it can shoot straight up, and no matter what wind. I don't know if you've ever tried to hit or kick bamboo. I remember growing up, all those kung fu movies where they're kicking the bamboo and it's just ripping their shins apart, but it's how they train. Bamboo is very, very hard and strong form of wood. So the reason why I share that with you is because we have two different foundations that we build here. The first thing we go over is the 5 foundational freedoms, and we're going to get into that today. And the other one, which we'll save for another day, is going to be the 4 codes. Now, we got to learn the 5 foundational freedoms first so I can start to build the daily habits of what are needed to build that strong foundation. And the 5th one is the strongest rooted, which just picture a triangle. And at the bottom is all the base. Now, when people flip it, it can fall very easily, actually. So we're going to get into that. But the reason why you've got the strong foundation triangle is because then when you put the 4 codes on top of these 5 foundational freedoms, this is where we get lifelong changes with habits. So without further ado, let's jump into the 5 foundations. So over the last 20 years, well, probably about 10 years ago is when I started asking questions. Someone taught me, let's learn how to ask better questions. So I started asking better questions and I started getting better answers. So the better question I began to ask is, what are the people doing that are graduating from our program and flourishing and thriving in life year after year after year, versus what are those doing that either leave our program early or even graduate our program, but then go back and flounder? And so as I started doing follow-ups, as I started, not only doing follow-ups, but weekly, annually, doing case studies of asking questions on the phone, in person, on Zoom, I started to really break down different areas of what was working and why, what wasn't working and why. And then I started looking at people coming through the program at the same time, and then once they leave, kind of go different routes, because they have the same program, many times with the same individuals, being taught the same thing, but somehow getting complete different results. So as I began to ask better questions, I got better answers. And that is where I found really these 5 core areas of life. And what was interesting was the people that were doing well somehow were working on all 5 of these some way, and this is why I figured it out, because just by asking a ton of questions, that they were doing daily work on these 5 things, and actually they had built in habits to what they were doing, why they were in our center. And then what happened is it no longer was what they did, it was who they were and who they'd become. So it was no longer a checklist of, I got to do these things, but now it's a thing of, this is who I am. It's a part of me, and it's what I do. It's no longer a habit, it's no longer a checklist. It's like a ritual of, I just do it every single day. Just like first few things I do when I wake up, I don't have to think about it. I go to the restroom, and then after I'm done eating, I don't have to think about it. I brush my teeth. Now, at one point in my life, I had to have someone come in and show me how to use the restroom, how to brush my teeth, and how to go about it. Stupid analogy, but stick with me. I'm hoping you get it. So we started figuring that over here, and then I looked over here. And I looked at the five foundations over here, and what was interesting is not a single person was working on all five. Now, the interesting thing was I saw a lot of people working on one, maybe two, and ignoring the other 3 or 4. What was interesting is they weren't doing as bad as the people not working on any of them, but they still were struggling. And a lot of times they would be elite in one area. They would put all their effort into one area, actually do very well, but that foundation wasn't there and would only see them crash and burn to rinse and repeat. So in this session, we're actually going to dive into what those 5 foundations are and the type of work that we can see. Again, it's only going to be surface level. I wish I had the time to go in and actually go through the 90-day program of the 6 to 7 hours a day of the therapy and the case management and the groups and stuff and be able to give that to you. But I'll be frank, I don't have the time. So I'm just going to give you just kind of this basic framework of these 5 foundations. Now that you understand the premise of over a decade worth of information of studying people that are doing well, that graduated and flourishing and thriving versus those struggling. So they're really in no particular order. They're all equally, I'll say 4 of them are all equally important. But there's one that we need to have at the bottom, and it's the one that most people struggle with. But once you do the work, you get enough reps and you start doing it and it becomes who you are. It's amazing because then you can put real heavy stuff on top and that foundation is not going anywhere. So let's work with the easiest one that's very easy to see and to tell. And the first foundational freedom, the first F, is fitness. So we look at health and fitness. Every single person that was thriving was putting their health first. Now, there's a difference between unhealthy selfish, which is what a lot of us have done in the past, versus healthy selfish. Now, one of the stories we have to overcome is when I look at certain selfish aspects, selfish isn't always bad. That's why we distinguish it into 2 different categories: healthy selfish, good; unhealthy selfish or destructive selfish, bad. What we found is that people that struggled used destructive selfish, meaning me for me and at other people's expense, versus healthy selfish, which is I do this for me, but also for the benefit of others, and it feels good and it benefits the world. So I know it's kind of grandiose, but as you start seeing these things, hopefully it'll start to click with you in this short little session. So with fitness, the ones that did very well put their fitness and health first. So it means they did something to sweat every single day. Not necessarily having to go to the gym and throw weights around, which is a great thing, but a lot of people don't do that 7 days a week, nor would that even be healthy. So we're looking at things of how do I sweat? Whether it's going for a walk every day, and this is why I love the foundational framework, is because you get to decide at this current season in your life, and as seasons change, you get to continue doing these different things with each season. So here is the neat meat and potatoes. In one season, it might be, I'm going to go for a walk around the block and do 5 push-ups. And that is the max for me. I don't know if I can do much more than that. So you go ahead and you do that and you sweat for the day. Where another season might be, I go to the gym for 45 minutes and I'm going nonstop, balls to the wall, gung-ho, and I feel so great afterwards. That might be another season. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just understanding that in this foundation of fitness, we want to sweat. And then the other part is we want to supplement. What are we supplementing our body with? Am I eating for emotions? Am I eating to sedate, to numb out, or to feel something? Or am I eating for fuel? And the coolest thing about this process is we actually, it's called subtraction through addition. And here's the crazy thing. So the pictures are out there somewhere. You can probably Google them. But my rock bottom in the fitness area is I got up to about 235 pounds at, I think it was like 25 or 27% body fat. I was huge. The cool thing is I didn't think I was that bad. We rationalize, we soften, we tell our own stories to ourselves, and it sabotages our growth. But the cool thing is my wife was pregnant with our second child. And my rock bottom was when my little daughter, she was I think 2 at the time, right around there, goes, "Mommy have baby in belly and daddy have baby in belly." I didn't think it was that bad. But when you have this innocent little girl legitimately think mom and dad both have babies in their bellies, that was my kind of aha moment in the realm of fitness. So that is where, in order to not just form habits, but to actually take it from it's something that I had to do to it's who I am, is I didn't want to subtract and do this whole diet thing, because I've seen people do that. And did you know that on average, every time someone diets, they gain 3 pounds by the end of it? That's not what I'm about. I'm about lifestyle change. So I thought, okay, what do I need to do? Well, in order to sweat, I'm just going to go for a walk. If I can get 5,000 steps in, half of what the norm is, that's fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to eat a healthy breakfast and then keep eating the way I am the rest of the day. And so here's what I mean by subtraction through addition. I didn't necessarily have to take everything out. I just said, hey, I can still eat what I want. I'm going to add anything if I felt like it. I could even eat more, but I'm just going to go ahead and make one small change for breakfast. And I did this for about 2 or 3 months. And here's what was amazing is it actually became easy. I'm like, oh, I do a protein shake. I do my greens. That's really my breakfast. Sometimes I do a banana with peanut butter, but it changes, sometimes cucumber. But here's what I'm saying is I would eat a breakfast that was actually food and supplementation for my body. And then the rest I would sabotage and go back to my eclairs and all the stuff that I was eating. After 2 to 3 months, then it moved to something actually very simple, going, oh, you know what? This is actually kind of easy. What if I just changed my morning snack and actually had a snack that was somewhat healthy? And then lunch, I could still pig out. And then dinner, all that stuff, desserts, way to go. So I made that next change, next little shift. Okay, not really taking too much away. I'm actually just adding a small little thing, but I can still do this. And so I just did that step by step of breakfast, then added the snack, then added the lunch, then added the snack, then added the dinner. And before I knew it, I completely changed how I was eating. Now I eat primarily for fuel. I'm not perfect. I still revert back and love having a couple of these cheat meals. But the reason why I share it this way is because by making these small little improvements, looking for long-term lifestyle versus short-term, just get there now, I've actually maintained my weight and my body fat for, it's been 9 years. It's almost a decade. So under this foundation of fitness and in health, we want to make sure that we're sweating daily, we're actually doing something to move and expend calories, and then supplementing, doing greens, making sure I'm getting my nutrients, but having a healthy relationship with food so it's something that nurtures me and feeds me versus a way to sedate. So that's the first one with fitness. The next one, again, no particular order, but is faith. What we found is people that were thriving had some form of relationship with a God of their understanding or creator. I call mine God, I call mine Jesus. You can call yours what you want, but here was the thing is we started we saw people making time to have that, I call it divine direction or that sacred space with their creator. And so it became really cool to see people over here didn't have a connection. It was little g, meaning me, little guy, if you will, became their own God and they struggled versus the big G or the big God that is over here that has this connection. And so what we started to find is they made time every single day to create what I call the sacred space in order to commune with their creator. And it has led to so much beautiful things. So as I started to adopt this and kind of tweak it, I went, okay, what does that look like for me? And again, I get to make my own rules. You get to make your own rules when you use this framework. It's not like, hey, you have to do this. You have to read the Bible for 1 hour every single day and you've got to say 10 Hail Marys and all that stuff. No, it's what are you feeling called when you have that conversation with your creator and say, hey, I want to get to know you better. You made me in your image. I want to enjoy this and to be directed divinely. What does that look like? And so probably for the last 4 or 5 years, this current season for me is, I call it my walk and talk. In the morning, I go out, usually right around sunrise, and I go through a process with prompted questions that allows me to connect to my creator, and I have this time with them. And then I do a little daily devotional, a little Bible study. And here's what's amazing is the more time I invest in that, the better I get to know myself, the more is revealed of me and to me through me of why I am here on earth, what my purpose is, the fact that I get to be here and actually educating you on stuff that I feel like I just kind of stumbled upon and figured out, and really is why these 5 foundations work so well together. So on that faith part, it's basically space in scripture. is creating that sacred space so I can commune with my Creator, and then documenting it or reading scripture and actually learning more about myself. And as time progresses, it's like this understanding gets wider and wider. And as I understand more, I realize how little I actually know. And it's this beautiful dance. So faith is that next one. And this is one that a lot of people struggle with. When I started interviewing people over here that struggled with what faith was, or spirituality, or a relationship with their God, there was a lot of confusion or frustration. So there was this void and looking to fill that. But what's interesting is as people started to just saying, hey, I don't need to necessarily be religious or have to go to a certain church or subscribe to a certain faith, I'm able to commune with my Creator. And what they found was their Creator would reveal themselves of how they needed to see them. That's the part, is we use our own human minds to try to understand something that is in a whole nother realm. And as I become open to this and saying, hey, just reveal yourself to me so I can understand and have a relationship with you, people started finding that out. And so the people over here that were just thriving began to really have this wonderful relationship. It was kind of like this intimate friendship with their best friend, but it wasn't physical. It was spiritual and emotional and mental. So that is one of the other aspects, which is faith. Now, the third one is family and friends, the two F's. We can call it fellowship, but they were doing daily work on their family. They were asking themselves, they're actually reflecting on the relationships. They were observing and wanting to pour into these relationships, versus over here where they severed ties, they didn't invest in relationships. I was thinking, Peter Herman, I'm a loner, daddy. they were isolating, all this other stuff. So we started to see this foundation of family and what it means to pour into your wife or your husband. So for me, it was, how do I get to know my wife at a soul level? How do I get to know my kids at their beautiful little soul level, where I just pour and make daily deposits into them? And this is where we came up with what we call the message of gratitude, or the MOG. Now, where I got this idea was probably 5 years ago. Let's see, 4 to 5 years ago, somewhere around there. I was at a friend's funeral that was actually really involved with the recovery field and helping people. And this guy had reached so many people. He was a beautiful soul. And what happened is, person after person after person shared the impact that this individual had on them in their lives, and it was wonderful. And I mean, there wasn't a dry eye. I was bawling. And I happened to know either 3 or 4 of them that shared. And so going back to this whole better question, curiosity got the best of me. So I actually sat down one after another and said, hey, what you shared was so touching and moving. Thank you. Did you ever share that with him when he was alive? Because that was beautiful. And every single person said no. I don't know why we're built this way, but it's like we don't share the intimate vulnerability of what we feel or what we think about a person until it's too late. And then it becomes this eulogy. And so I asked myself, what would it look like for me to let people know the impact they have on my life, how much I care about them and love them while they're alive, so they can actually enjoy that? And so what I started doing is sending either a video, a text, a letter, an email, a fax, I don't care, but it's some form, it's some form of just letting the person know that you're pouring into them. And I didn't expect this when I first started, because I just wanted people to know that I love them. My marriage with my wife began to flourish. My wife said she actually felt seen. My relationship with my kids just blossomed, and my kids actually want to spend time with me. And many times, instead of going to a friend's house, not every time, but sometimes they'll say, I just want to hang out with you, Dad. I want to hang out with you, Mom. Let's go do something fun. And it's like, because I'm pouring into those that are important to me, they're feeling my love. We're actually connected at a spiritual, soulful, and emotional level. It's this beautiful thing, and I got to see more and more people do that. Those that are pouring into relationships were just rising and thriving, and the other areas of their life were being fueled by this, where when I looked over here and those isolating were wilting and literally like they were dying on the vine. So this is one of the big ones of really making sure that I am letting people know. I call it affirm and acknowledge. I want to acknowledge those in my life and affirm what they're doing that's so special in my life. Again, not as a form of, hey, I'm going to say this so you say something great about me, but in the realm of, I just want you to know the impact you have on me, how grateful I am to have you in my life, and thank you. So that is the family part. Now, next part is a big one because we are raised to think a certain way when it comes to this F and its finances. Before, I used to think money was dirty and those that had a lot of it were selfish and all this other stuff. And it really kind of jacked me of being able to invest in myself, to learn and to grow, and to actually be a part of programs and agencies and different things. And so what I found is, again, those that were doing really well were actually focusing every single day on just getting to be 1% better. They were learning and applying. So they were basically acquiring new information and applying. So we call it acquire and apply. And they were doing it every single day, whether it was reading a book, whether it was going back to school, whether it was learning a new trade, whether it was when they were working, learning one or two things the next level up and just doing it anyways to add more value, versus those over here that were trying to take. So creation versus taking. And so again, asking better questions, I started finding out and thinking, well, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not even a psychologist. And so my story for so long is I don't have that information. I thought, well, school was really, really tough for me because I was learning things that I didn't necessarily care about. What if I started learning about psychology and addiction? And so I started to devour. And so for the last 10 years, I have devoured hours upon hours every single day in the field of psychology and addiction. And what's amazing is I started to extract this information. I was growing, and then I was just sharing it with other people, like excited. So by acquiring and applying and then just sharing with other people, that's literally how this whole thing has been built. I've been pouring into it and bringing the right people on the team to make sure that the quality of service we provide here is bar none to anything else, is special, and why we get the results we do. So those that were continually pouring into themselves, their own education, but in the field that they love, this is where so many people started saying, hey Mark, because this whole financial part, I love it. I'm actually syncing finance with faith, and I am finding my purpose in life, and I'm able to make money doing what I love. And I'm sitting there going, I know. It took me so long to figure that out. But once I was able to start stacking some of these things together, I love the fact that I get to make a living off of helping people. Like you talk about a win-win. Now that aligns with my faith, that aligns with my family, that aligns with my fitness, it aligns with everything. So this fourth, in no particular order, of finances, we would see people would focus on this every single day of just getting 1% better. And after a year, 365 reps, you are getting infinitely better than the person you were before. So every single year, we start seeing this expansion. We do a 7-year follow-up, a 9-year follow-up, a 10-year follow-up, and see the people living this way with these 5 foundations. It's the compound. Like after 90 days, you'd see it grow a little bit. 6 months, a little bit, a year more, and then all of a sudden it just gets bigger and bigger, and it's like, wow, what people are capable of using this whole compound growth mindset, it blows me away. And so with those 4 things, it was great, but there was still something missing. There was still an aspect of seeing people do these, but still be disconnected some way, somehow, and that was where this 5th part was revealed, and it's of feelings. Now, I've done other videos on this, but how am I working out emotionally each day? It's very easy to see the fitness aspect as far as physical, but when it comes to feelings, if I'm doing all this, but I am feeling depressed or anxiety, and I am not doing the daily work to make sure that I am utilizing my emotions so my emotions serve me, kind of like a dashboard, not if something goes off of, oh my gosh, the car's broken, but a thing of like, oh, interesting, let me observe why I'm feeling this way, and then what can I do to start challenging these current stories so I maybe gain a different perspective. And so as I started kind of asking people, again, back to the better question thing, right? As I started asking, I saw people were exploring how they were feeling and actually doing things of these other 4. Of the fitness helps kind of frame feelings, of family kind of helps frame feelings, of finance and faith, all these things, it started framing this. So once the feelings was a strong base, all these sat on top could grow and expand. So with feelings, I was actually doing work each and every day that you are challenging your current stories and your thoughts. And because of that, you're able to change your emotions and feelings, which then led to changing how you act and behave. And so really, I mean, to kind of sum it all up, these are the 5 foundational freedoms that every single person that was flourishing was doing some form of work every single day in these 5 areas, and just small incremental growth, which over time became massive, versus people over here that weren't doing the 5, or maybe doing 1 or 2, but ignoring the rest. So I want to share this with you to kind of give you a framework of why our method works so stinking well, because there's always just a little bit of work each day, and in each area we have 2 actions we take every single day. We call it the perfect 10, and when we hit those things every single day, we feel better, we act better, we do better, and day after day, week after week, month after month, this is where we see our clients absolutely flourish. And here's the kicker, I don't know if you noticed, not once did I mention addiction of drugs or alcohol. What we started to find is when we were focusing on this, the organic byproduct is people no longer wanted to look in order to numb or sedate or just to check out, because they started seeing the growth and began living the life that they love. So I think that's enough time for today. That is what we'll go into now. And now that you understand this foundation, the next part of the series is going to be going over the 4 codes that allows us to put on top of the 5 foundations and basically pour fuel on to really magnify these 5 foundations for explosive growth. So thank you again for listening, and I'm excited to see you in the next session.
Thank you for listening. We're so glad you're here, and we hope that you found this episode helpful. We're going to ask that you leave us a review if you found this helpful, because what it does is it helps other people find this valuable resource to hear these inspirational stories in order to grow. Now, once you leave the review, I'm going to ask that you take a screenshot and then send me the email. And you can send it to Mark, M-A-R-K, at PacificShoresRecovery.com. And what I'm going to do is every single month, we're going to pick one winner, and we are going to offer a free one-on-one breakthrough session, either virtually in here, or if you're in person, would love to meet you with me. That will help see where you're stuck, where you want to go, and to help create this bridge to help get you there. So thank you again for listening. Want to make sure that this continues to be highly valuable time. Please leave us a review, and love to see you in our raffle for the one-on-one breakthrough session.